All right, we're spinning up some Rainbow Warriors today. Pretty popular fly. This is a really good winter fly, which is when I use it the most. So I'm kind of going pretty hard on these right now, filling up the box. So fairly easy fly to tie, not too in depth, but there's a couple of little things that I like to do to kind of make it the way that I like it. We're going to use an ahrex FW 550. This is a size 14. The size range on this fly calls from anywhere from 12 to 22. I know people use it. I know it probably works, but I've never really fished this fly in the bigger sizes. I can't imagine fishing a 12 or a 14. I'm sure a lot of people do. I know this is a size 14, which is bigger than I normally fish, but I'm using a little bit of a bigger hook for the video because if I use an 18 like what I normally use, it's going to be kind of hard to see. So, plus also these are mini jigs. The hooks run a little bit smaller than other hook sizes do. So I've got that in a slotted tungsten bead, and thread-wise I'm using UTC 70 in red. I like the UTC because you can flatten your thread and really do a nice job of shaping your body here. So we're going to get that started right behind the bead, and we're going to start tying materials in right away. And the reason why I want to do this is because if I lay down a thread base, or if I do the tail and then come back to the front and then do the body and all that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up building up a lot of bulk here at the back of the fly. And I want it to be nice and slim, tapering into a wider body. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to build the body as I work my way down. So for the tail, this pattern calls for regular pheasant tail. So I pull off exactly 3 strands. And the reason why I do exactly 3 is, you don't want a big, giant, bushy tail on this. And pheasant tail is kind of thick. Bit of a thicker material, so 3 strands will definitely do it. A couple wraps to get that secured. Now, I'm making a video on the Rainbow Warrior, so I'm going to stick to the materials and what the recipe calls for. The recipe calls for pheasant tail. In a moment of honesty, I will say that when I tie these for my own personal use, which I mean this is too, I fish with all the flies that I tie, but what I use is I use CDL when I tie them. It's a little bit of a thinner tail material. I think is a little bit better for Euro nymphs. If I tie a regular fly or if I tie this fly on a regular type of hook, not a Euro style, then I will go with the pheasant tail, but for the video, we'll make sure we use the right materials. All right, for the body calls for some pearl flashabou. So I'm going to take a strand here and cut that off. And we'll get this slipped in under our thread. Just get a soft wrap there to grab it. And we're good. So now what I'm going to do, I've gone down a little ways. Now I'm going to double my way back to the front. And we can get our excess out of there so it just gets out of our way. Now I mentioned in the beginning of the video that I like to use a flat thread because it shapes our body a little bit better. So what will happen is as I turn my thread, that thread is going to start getting twisted. And I know you can't really see it right now. I could probably pull this up a little. But that bobbin is by itself spinning counterclockwise. And the reason why is it's unraveling itself. So if you just give it your own counterclockwise spin, you can see right up there where that thread is going to kind of unravel itself and become flat again. And then we can go down about another third of the way or so and double back to the front. And the reason why you want to keep flattening that thread out is because if you have a twisted thread, it basically operates the same as a round thread, and you can build up a lot of bulk and have a bumpy underbody. That flashabou, once you start wrapping it, is going to follow whatever type of underbody you created. So you want to kind of work and try to get that to be nice and smooth and uniform. And at the end of the day, are we putting a little too much thought into a tiny little thing that a fish is going to see for a half a second and decide to eat or not? Yeah, we are, but I don't know. That's just the way it goes. Plus, to be honest with you, if I kind of nail the taper and have a nice smooth underbody, I just tend to like the fly better, fish it more confidently. And that's about good right there. So I'm going to start wrapping the body, but before I do that, I want to point out that when you saw me tie it in, probably noticed that it was pretty small. This is still the same material that the pattern calls for. It's pearl flashabou, but this is the micro size. And I like the micro size because when you wrap it, it gives you a little bit of better control over how you want to shape the body. The thicker stuff, it creates a little bit of overlap and it builds up a lot of bulk. And I got to be honest with you, I see a lot of, this fly is really, really easy to overdress. You can overdress the body, you can overdress the dubbed collar. It's really, really easy to overdress this fly. So this micro flashabou, I think, does a better job of giving you a little bit more control over shaping the body and, you know, getting it to look the way you want. So I definitely prefer the micro. So we're just going to work our way up with touching wraps. It really doesn't matter if you miss a wrap and there's some thread exposed. The whole point of this fly are those alternating colors, and so it doesn't really matter, but try to stick to some touching wraps and get that all the way up to the bead. Got a little bit of a gap there, but dubbing is going to cover all that, so no biggie. Get a few wraps on that, cut off the excess. All right, so the body is formed, but we want to strengthen that a little bit, so I'm just going to take a little bit of this bone dry, squeegee off my applicator. You don't want to put massive gobs on there. And we're just going to run a thin little bead of resin over the top of that flashabou. Just make sure that it's not going to get all torn up after you fish it and after it skips the bottom. And of course, you know, the teeth of the trout, which can beat it up, but I think worrying about trout teeth, I think that's something that's a little overblown in fly tying. It happens, but it's not as common as I think a lot of us make it out to be. All right. So, last piece of business here is the dubbing, which we're going to use some rainbow scud dub here from Hairline. And the way I do this, I got a little tuft of it here, but I'm just going to rip out just a few strands. Very, very few. I mean, however much you normally use, probably cut that in half. As I said before, it's really easy to overdress this fly. Too thick of a collar, big overlaps on your body. It's pretty easy to do that. So you just kind of got to be careful here. Get this dubbed up nice and tight. It's not the easiest dubbing to work with. This is definitely not like hare's ear that goes on your thread nicely. I definitely use my little finger wetting tool here. Kind of get a little bit of friction to get that to go on the thread. So I just want a nice thin noodle there of this dubbing. And we're just going to start applying this directly behind the bead. I'm angling my thread towards the front because as you build up a little bit of bulk with the dubbing, it'll push itself towards the back. I got a couple of longer pieces in there, which aren't really a problem, but I like to keep that a little tight. So now what I'm going to do is I talked before about keeping your thread flat. If you run a flat thread to build up this little hotspot collar, it can spread out a little bit more than you want. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this thread and I'm going to spin it clockwise to bind it up. And the reason why I'm doing that is I'm making it round now. So now when I come in here and start building up my little hotspot there, it's not going to spread out and expand and become too big on me. As I said before, this fly is really easy to overdress. If your hot spot starts expanding towards the back of the fly, it can push your dubbing back and make too big of a hot spot. If you overdub it, if you don't wrap the body correctly. So it's not a difficult fly to tie, but you can run into some things. But there's some little tricks there to kind of alleviate some of those issues. So that is your finished Rainbow Warrior. Very, very popular fly. It's not specifically for winter, but winter is essentially when I use it. A lot of midges and a lot of other types of bugs use gases to get themselves up to the surface and emerge. This is a really cool fly because the coloration in the body and the dubbing, when the sunlight hits that, especially in the winter, you're going to get a quick sparkle that'll grab the fish's attention. I think that's one of the things that makes this fly such a great winter fly. But again, you can use it all year. It's just a really big attractor pattern. Awesome when there's some sunlight. I don't use it on dull days. This thing doesn't generate its own light, so if it's a dull day, you're not really going to get the effect of what the Rainbow Warrior does. But on a sunny day, this thing works magic, especially in the winter. Pretty easy to tie and really effective. So questions, anything, just put them up in the comments and I'll get back to everybody as quick as I can.